Hey y'all, welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. Happy Saturday. It's Saturday where I am. Probably is Saturday where you are. This is a project I've been wanting to do. New project, always. I got it myself. A new binder. Well, a new notebook, I mean. And I took some of the stickers. People over profit. Basic human rights for all is not a radical concept. Bitches. Anyway. Alright, new ideas. Here they are. The first one we're gonna do is something I've been wanting to do for at least over 10 years. Okay. We're going to... I'm listening to the Neighborhood Kids. If you don't know them, you should know them. They're great. It's like a history lesson every time you listen to a song. We're gonna dismantle diagnoses. Okay, we're gonna be diagnosing society. Okay, so we're gonna be dismantling mental health systems by taking the characteristics for diagnoses of certain mental illnesses, reading through them, and then applying them to certain societal systems. So that we can really understand what the crazy shit is, okay? Legit. Let's start with schizophrenia. How do you spell that? No idea how you spell that. Schizophrenia. There it is. Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't gonna guess that. Okay. Alright. A disorder that affects a person's ability to think, feel, feel, or behave clearly. I should probably... Okay, so we're starting with schizophrenia. I'll keep a running... We're gonna go through all of the... all the mental illnesses. So, a disorder that affects a person's ability to think, feel, or behave clearly. It's pretty broad, isn't it? What else? What within society? I'm gonna need like actual notebook. Oh, I actually have a notebook over here. I'm gonna turn this into a zine, I think, so I gotta take notes. This is Niall's medical notebook, so all of this... use the back pages, and then I will get myself a notebook. If you are not a writer, there are different notebooks for different things. This is also a notebook. This one's like my brain. It's all like loose papers. There's always a notebook for something. Okay, moving on. If you are... Okay, so we're gonna go with schizophrenia. Okay. Alright, schizophrenia is characterized by thoughts or experiences that seem out of touch with reality. Okay, but reality is objective or subjective because everyone has their own reality. Right? So the thing I want you to understand with not only the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, that's the giant Bible that they use to diagnose people, thoughts or experiences. What my master's work, my thesis was really about was the use of language and how broad language is used so that the jurisdiction, whether it be court or police or whatever authority, whatever level you have to go through, can kind of, there's enough leniency, there's enough room for their own bias within the language that's presented, within diagnoses, within laws, municipal codes, within federal stuff. If you've ever read, that's why I wanted to be a lawyer for a minute, and I'm like, there's no way. I could never, because no. It's all about language, and it's all about professional corporate language. No way. Okay, that seem out of touch with reality. Okay, again, Reality is, okay, disorganized speech is one. I see you looking at me trying to diagnose me. I have ADHD and I'm a channel, bitch. I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And then I took the doctor to court and won, so. Okay. Also my big ring broke, so I had to put a peace sign on. I got a backup or two. Decreased participation in daily activity. So what that means, in daily activities, how beneficial are you being to the capitalist machine? So if you're not participating in your 9 to 5 or your whatever slave labor, that's your daily activity. So if you're being resistant to your daily activity / your slave labor job, then you could be labeled. That's what happened here. Hi, hey. Difficulty with concentration and memory may also be present. Difficulty. In the future, I will write these beforehand. So, when the DSM was written back in 1952, I want you to understand the relationship between the DSM and pharmaceuticals. They both popped off at the same time, right after World War II. So 1952, Israel started their Nakba in 1948. So these are the same people in charge, okay? The APA, the American Psychiatric Association, was I think it was late 1800s, maybe very early 1900s. But we all know that that's like white folk. So anyway, the whole reason I'm telling you this is white men, specifically. So these are like the Frankensteins, right? Like the Dr. Frankensteins of the world. Obviously, okay? It's who we're dealing with. That's who created these systems of control. All of the shit was created. This isn't the way that life is supposed to be. So when the DSM was started again in 1952, alongside, what was it, Thorazine, lithium, and Haldol, I believe, were the first, 3 psychotropics that started being used. This was around the time of lobotomizing. Lobotomies are when they took, an ice pick and, shoved it in your fucking forehead and, shook your brains out. They thought that that would cure people. Not cure people, but make them complacent. The entire system we live with is all about control. Okay. Alright. So, thoughts or experiences that seem out of touch with reality. Okay, again, let me just make sure. I'm not using the DSM either because you have to pay a lot of money for those books and the library won't let you check them out and take them. They have to stay there. I wonder why. I will try. I think I have the PDFs for the original DSMs. If you'd like to read my thesis, I went very in-depth in this process. But anyway, God, I started this thought a million times. The DSM was written by a bunch of white dudes in white coats, who got together in white hoods, who got together and were like, okay, these are the characteristics of this. Let's call it this. And they had a democratic process of what constituted mental illness. Based on, again, the pathologizing of behavior. So what is beneficial to capitalist gain and what is not. And if it's not, if you're off your rocker, if you don't want to participate in being a slave, then you're going to be diagnosed and funneled through the system or locked up forever, right? It happens all the time. The Kennedys locked up one of their daughters. Hysteria was a big thing where women had orgasms and men were like, what the fuck is going on? You're fucking crazy. Baby, that's just an orgasm. Men should not be leading the planet. What was I gonna look? Oh yeah, is it objective or subjective? Okay, no. Oh, here, no. Objective refers to facts and verifiable information, while subjective relates to personal opinions, feelings, and perspectives. So, I'm going to write that down for future because I get those confused. Objective is facts. Verifiable info. Versus subjective, everyone's own little slice of reality. Personal opinions, feelings, perspectives. I'm a subjective fan all day long because even the objective stuff, again, stemmed from someone else's opinions, okay? So when we're thinking about radical change and transformation, we're thinking about dumpster firing this entire system, not letting ourselves be controlled by it. The first thing to do is reclaim your agency. I'm thinking of like a tug of war. I don't have a rope, but that's what I'm doing. I'm pulling a rope, reclaiming everything that I've given out to everyone, their opinions of me, their times that they tried to have power over me. I'm using me, but really, I mean, this is the process for all of us. So when, so thoughts or experiences that seem out of touch with reality. I would like to start with the conversation that we're currently having about anti-Semitism. So the powers that be are like, hey, anti-Semitism means that if you have any sort of feelings against us bombing children, you're an anti-Semite. Okay, anti-Semite means that you are, they've changed the meaning. Okay, that's what this all is about. They've always changed meaning. It's just words. They keep changing the meaning based on how they feel and how much power and control they need to have and how much power and agency we have. They're going to continually change it to lessen our own power. Okay, that's point blank period. And the DSM is a very effective way of doing this. This is my specialty, so these are going to be a little longer because I love this shit. And like I said, I've been planning this project for a good 10 years. Disorganized speech behavior, decreased participation in daily activity, difficulty with concentration and memory. That is so broad. That is so fucking broad. That's why when we get diagnosed with a mental illness and they tell us, like when I was diagnosed with bipolar, that was the first diagnosis I received, was bipolar. They said that this was going to be something forever. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with my brain. First of all, my brain isn't fully developed. I'm only like 23. Your brain doesn't fully develop until you're like 25 to 27. And so that's what they're doing. They're really going after like little kids. Like my son, now that we're in the medical system with his autism, I know he's going to get diagnosed with ADHD because I know he has ADHD. And I know they're going to try to medicate that with fucking meth. That's what Adderall is. I was addicted to Adderall in my high school years. You know that. We've read our journals. My journals. I drew pictures of the goddamn pills and shit. What is this on my foot? It's Niall's shoe. Why is your shoe over here? So, if you're not participating in capitalism, you could be, if you have no desire to, clock in. Regardless of what your job is, what level you're at, if you don't want to go to work, they're going to diagnose you. Nobody wants to go to fucking work, okay? You're not ill. Society is. And that's the whole point of this project is, I don't know, we got to call this something like diagnosing, what should we call this? Diagnosing society? Society? I want to call it something diagnosing and dismantling, I think. Yeah, we'll do diagnosing and dismantling. I have to do an alliteration. Fuck. Diagnosing and dismantling society. That'll cause a couple of red flags. So today we're doing schizophrenia. So a lot of characteristics of people who are have been diagnosed schizophrenia, hallucinations and delusions are two of the things that they really, really do have. Hallucinations. I can't spell at all. I know what I mean though. Delulu. Hallucinations are when you see stuff. Delusions are when you have like grandiose thinking. It could also be like a hearing or seeing sort of thing. So the thing about the DSM and the ways that they've pathologized behaviors and things also that I want to cover in this first one is, okay, thanks. Where were we? Oh, spiritual gifts. We've talked about this a lot. The hill I will die on is that mental illness is just spiritual gifts, and the CIA will back me up on this. If you go to some of their projects, they've studied human behavior illegally for a really long time to come up to these conclusions and find ways to counter the behavior, right? Pathologizing the behavior. So like psychic mediums and people who have open channels to divinity, like myself. I've been labeled schizophrenic, bipolar, psychotic, non-disclosed psychosis at one point. I think there have probably been others. But that's been what I've been doing. And honestly, when I reclaimed my agency, I was like, no, I am a magical motherfucker. And that's the thing. That's talking to this objective and subjective. The facts are that, yeah, I have the ability to hear shit. No, those are not hallucinations and delusions. That is my gifts. Those are my abilities to channel. We are open channels. We are electromagnetic beings. We have source. Whatever that source is that you believe. We all have access to higher realms of consciousness. And this system has made it so that we can't escape. People call it the Matrix. People call it a whole lot of fucking things. But one of the main things to remember is that it's all made up. It's all made up to control. My thesis was something called, what did I call it? It was community resilient, is mental illness as a form of social control. So I looked at all of the DSMs. I looked at their democratic process in putting it together, and I realized it's all just language based and feelings based on how to control. So and then I put together this giant timeline, and you can go to my TikTok, and it's on my pinned videos. It's like over 20 pages. But within my research, I looked at the relationship between the development of the American Psychiatric Society, or whatever this is, alongside of social movements. So every time there was a significant leap of civil rights or social movements getting traction, what's the word? Traction? Making progress, I guess. Then the system would come in. The DSM, so there are 5 or 6 copies of the DSM. The first one was 1952. The next one was 1968. In the balls deep in the civil rights, they were like, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. So they continued editing the DSM in response to people fighting back. So it's very obvious what this does and what it's for, once you get to a certain level of understanding. So within society, thoughts are experiences that seem out of touch with reality. I would like to say that the entire elite are out of touch with reality. So we can just turn that around and tell them they're schizophrenic. That's the thing about it. There's a lot of people who say you can't use the master's tools to dismantle the master's house, but I think you absolutely can. And I think that's exactly what we have to do. We have to flip it and let them know how fucking retarded they are. Excuse my language, I'm from the 90s. And it's true. Disorganized speech. Have you heard any of the leaders talk? I'm thinking about that time Mitch McConnell just like froze behind the podium because he was taking a shit and he had to concentrate on it. That's a good example. Anytime Trump opens his mouth is also a good example. Behavior. Dropping bombs on babies. I would say it's a pretty out of touch thing to do. Okay? Decreased participation in daily activity. When was the last time you guys took public transportation? Okay. And difficulties with concentration and memory. That speaks for itself. All right. That was our first one. Tomorrow let's do OCD tomorrow. Fuck it. All right, bye.